James, here we are, 10th of May, Derby of Milan. Two kind of in domestically, I think it's been kind of disappointing seasons for these two teams. But here
100%.
we are. Here we are. We find ourselves in the Champions League semi-final. We're going to have Italian representation in the final. What's your kind of? I mean, we're kind of seeing off the San Siro, and we're doing all this kind of stuff. What's your take on having this as a fixture? Very nostalgic, isn't it?
Oh, massively. These are two historic teams. Like, I think with them together, I think it's what, seven? No, 10 Champions Leagues. I think AC Milan have seven. I think Inter Milan have three. The last time that either team won it was 2006, seven for AC Milan, 2010 for Inter Milan. In my eyes, like, and last time they met in this competition was 2003 in the semi-final where AC Milan went on to win and then went on to win the final. This is possibly the biggest Milan derby probably since then, Jack. A
Right.
chance to get to the Champions League final for both teams, as you mentioned, who are in a struggle to get top four in round 56, third. So this is massive for both teams to put themselves in a position to be in the Champions League and not only be in it, win it. It's massive.
Well, and again, I think the thing that we need to, well, the conversation, in my opinion, that we need to start with here is, yeah, it's not Ronaldinho, David Beckham, Pirlo, Seedorf, right? It's not the names of old. It's not Adriano. It's
Kaka,
not
Pirlo,
Zlatan,
Gattuso, them man there.
right? We're not in that area. But James, we got one of these teams is going to be in the final. And listen, I'm going to take whoever it is, Real Madrid or Man City, that makes the final. That's who I'm going to pick as my team to win it against either of these teams. But James, we know that in a final, anything can happen. And these are two teams who, with European pedigree, who are capable of doing it. And James, these aren't bums we're looking at here on the screen right now. There are some nice players here. It's not the same as the old players, but obviously there's a little bit of nostalgia aspect here. So what I first want to get into is just a little bit of a breakdown. Are you happy for me to kind of just go and then for,
Yeah,
for, for
yeah.
you to kind of go off that?
Again, guys, I'm really good with the breakdown stuff, but because I don't watch these two as much, Jack is a bit more knowledgeable at this, so I'm going to let Jack take the way here a little bit more and kind of look at the matchups. And also, guys, I hope you like our new setup. Tell me, do you like this new tactical pad we're gonna have there? Comment down below. Guys, let us know.
While you're down there too, like the video and subscribe, of course. That's
That's
what
a
we're
must.
always
That's
going to
a
be
must.
asking. But look, James, first of all, and again, this is all just my opinion. Inter Milan are really a 3-5-2 football team. Okay. We don't
Yeah.
see much for at the back from Inter. We really don't. Maybe in certain games, in certain situations, we'll see it, but it's not their bread and butter. This Milan team can do both. So, everyone watching at home, this is how I think Milan are going to go into it. I think they're going to go in trying to find spaces that they can take advantage of this Inter team, but I think there might be a little bit of a conservative aspect for them where they think, you know what, let's go with the back three. Let's stick Simon Kjaer in there. Let's maybe take one of the midfielders out, or take Brahim Diaz out and just have Giroud and Leao as kind of like wide forwards, kind of maybe Giroud more central, Leao playing off the left, kind of like asymmetric kind of. I
Hmm.
think Milan are capable, James, of doing both, right? And I think that is kind of an interesting dynamic. Now, where's the game going to be won and lost? Well, I think that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb here, really, doesn't it? Because it's out wide. Um, you know for a fact that Martinez and Dzeko, more so Martinez, they're going to run channels. We know the likes of Denzel Dumfries, DeMarco, what they're going to be capable of doing. Robin Gersons is obviously keeps getting these kind of little knocks and these little injuries. So is he going to be available to play off that left hand side? Maybe, maybe not. Right. Then we start looking at the other side of the ball. Teo Hernandez, Rafael Leao. We know what that flank is capable of. And again, James, especially with Milan Skriniar not fully fit to play that right centre back spot, you are dealing with Matteo Darmian, who can do a job there at right centre back, but it's not Milan Skriniar, right? There's a reason why Milan Skriniar is going to Paris Saint-Germain, right? Milan, Matteo Darmian realistically is a left wing back, right wing back, kind of probably more on the right, but can kind of do both. That left hand side for Milan is going to be absolutely fascinating. But that's where this game is won and lost. I mean, James, think about all the bodies that would be clogging that midfield. Seriously, not just the midfielders, but the attacking players. If the centre backs come up too, it's just going to be so clogged in there. It's going to be beating a man on the outside or cutting in, ball being delivered, and then the likes of a Dzeko or a Giroud causing trouble in there. And then maybe if it comes on the outside, one of the midfielders can sweep up.
Um, Jack, one thing that is a big thing for me there is Inter Milan's two.
Yeah.
And we don't see this much in world football nowadays. Teams playing with two strikers. I would listen. I want to see how AC Milan are actually going to deal going against two strikers. The two center backs are both going to be occupied at the same time. And Jack. This is a traditional where this is a traditional area for Inter Milan where like they have a big man in Edin Dzeko as a nine and like Lautaro Martinez playing off him, making like to me making the runs. In my eyes, when I look at this two like this battle here between Dzeko and the two centre backs is going to be vital in like to me, it's going to be very interesting how like Kalu and like Tomori are able to deal with that in this situation because it doesn't happen often for them. They probably don't see that as much.
The Kalulu one is interesting because I think Tamori used to be like, who's this guy who's come from Chelsea and wow, he's such a stud and maybe he should start for England, and you start having those conversations. James Kalulu, if my memory serves me correctly, was like 4 million euros from like Lyon or Lille or something, right? Is still a young man. And I think a lot of people, if you say the name Kalulu, they'll be like, who the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's the one, is a Champions League semi-final, right,
Mm-hmm.
against an experienced Edin Dzeko or a Lautaro Martinez who is still playing top quality football.
Yeah.
Is he going to be a bit overawed by the occasion? Right.
100%.
That's the one where you look at and you go, oh, you know what? Because James, in Bastoni, in Acerbi, and even in Darmian, and even if I know he's probably not going to play, but if Skriniar does come in and play, they're not going to look at Giroud and go, you know what, like I'm really worried about this. They're not going to be overawed by it at all. So I think that's a very interesting area. But again, James, we could be seeing the crowning of a fantastic new centre back here in Kalulu in the big moment.
And Jack, you mentioned talking about another matchup like you mentioned before. This matchup here
Oh,
is going to
huge.
be so interesting because I don't see Liao playing out wide. I see him coming inside and occupying Damian. Now, what this is going to do to me is that I'm wondering here is that um uh Dumfries is going to be in a 2v1 situation here where okay, he has to decide, okay, am I going to go with Liao and like support my man, or am I gonna have to go against Theo Hernandez? And like if he doesn't track, what's gonna happen there? Let's say Liao is gonna take Damian inside, gonna do what? Create space from there. So again, there's gonna be a lot of work for Dumfries to for me to deal with throughout these two legs.
If you put it back, can you put Leao back on Darmian and then
Yeah,
Hernandez back on Dumfries?
yeah,
So the other thing I think is interesting, for a fact Nicola Barella is going to come over. So if you don't mind bringing Barella over
yeah,
just a little bit there, because Barella is going to come in and screen and try and help.
yeah,
That sucks in Brozovic, right? That sucks in Henrik Mkhitaryan as well.
yeah,
And then you've got a couple of ball players you can recycle with the likes of somebody like Tonali, but then you've got people like Benacer, people like Diaz coming in, and then you've got that space on the right hand side, right?
yeah,
That's where it could be interesting. It as dangerous as Leao and Hernandez might be, Inter
mm,
Milan might sell out to stop that, to
yeah,
then give loads of space for that right hand side. And James, Brahim Diaz is kind of in a
he
little
is
bit of a hot streak right now, so he could
100%.
be in a position to benefit from this.
Like Jack, 100%. I felt Brian Diaz was a shining light against Tottenham, and Jack also and also in the Napoli game he played a big part. I think he scored. I'm not too sure if he scored, but I know he was um um involved in a few goals. So definitely, Jack, that's a matchup that we're definitely gonna have to pay close attention to. Another thing that it doesn't show on the screen right now, but I'm gonna bring up Jack
Yep.
is 1 second. Sorry guys, just trying to get this is this guy. So I'm gonna take Jacko out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna bring this guy in.
Right.
Now, I don't know why he doesn't start. I don't know what it is that Lukaku does that doesn't get him in this Inter Milan team right now. But Jack, his partnership with Lautaro Martinez, you seen a few years ago, was absolutely phenomenal. We seen Jack. We want to see will like the manager be able to say, should I drop Dzeko and like bring in an informed Lukaku, who, Jack, let's be truthfully honest, in the past 2 months, Jack has possibly played better than him, and has definitely been effective in games, coming on and making Jack impact from goals and assists there. So I don't know where Inter Milan manager's going to go. It looks like Dzeko's going to be there, but another part that could be vital is to me Lukaku coming into.
Look, you're right, and this is me being super, super cynical. This was, I mean, Mino Raiola, rest his soul, right? Lukaku was a Mino Raiola client, wasn't he? Right.
Yeah,
I just think that it's convenient timing as the rumors start with him going back to Chelsea, and then is he going to be at Chelsea or is he going to go to another team? That's when he starts kind of playing better and showing the right attitude and being a good player. Again, I hope that's not the case, but it's just the sense I get from who kind of Lukaku is. I think Lukaku, ever since the Manchester United failed experiment, Chelsea failed experiment, the success at Inter, and then it kind of fallen off a little bit afterwards as well. I'm a bit, I don't know. There's a reason why he doesn't start. There's a reason why a kind of an ancient Edin Dzeko is playing ahead of what should be a prime Romelu Lukaku. I think there's reasons for that. James, just flipping it over to the other side. How are Inter going to try and attack this Milan team? Now, I think you mentioned it there. Lukaku obviously poses a threat as well. It's obviously going to be heavily dependent on whether we do see a back four or a back five, back three, hybrid, whatever. We know what happens with the attacking two, right?
yeah,
There's usually some kind of channel running that happens, but we also know that Dzeko can be a spearhead and Martinez can come and hit that kind of diamond number 10 role that
yeah.
allows Dumfries to push on, Gersons, DeMarco, Damian, whoever it is to push on out wide. The midfield battle is going to be fascinating. And that's one, James. I'm not going to lie to you. I know that people come and watch this channel, hopefully for a bit of a breakdown. Inter have had the better of the exchanges in the midfield. But realistically, if you're asking me gun to the head, who's got the better midfield three out of Krunic, Benacer, Tonali, or Barella, Brozovic, Mkhitaryan? James, it's pretty even, in my opinion.
Wow.
It really is. There's different styles going on and different dynamics going on. But for me, generally speaking, the quality level is about the same, which is why it's such a fascinating, why it's such a fascinating matchup.
Again, Jack, I have a question for you. Who do you think is going to dominate the ball in this situation? Because Jack, you look at how both teams have operated in like AC Milan, who are to me a decent ball playing team, and showing that Jack they have the will to suffer. They at times they suffered against Tottenham, against Napoli, especially in the second leg, Jack. They suffered, but were incredible on the counter attack. Do you see them being the one kind of taking a step back, knowing think about knowing the dangers of knowing the dangers of Martinez in behind, them sitting back and trying to hit them on the counter attack with think about it with the wide areas from Rafael, Leao, and Diaz. Do you think about it? Do you see them kind of playing that sort of style, trying to get the best out of both legs?
Yeah, Inter will try and dominate the ball, definitely. And I think they probably will. Again, but what do you open yourself up to? You've just talked about it. It's the break, and it's the break from, I would still argue, the most dangerous flank in world football, quite potentially, in Teo Hernandez and Rafael. So, it's an interesting conversation to have. But again, they will be prepared for it. They know what's coming. These two teams know each other very, very well at this point.
What I think is going to happen in Jack in a certain situation, let's just say if Inter Milan are in possession, is we might have AC Milan go into two banks of four,
Right.
yeah, in asking somebody like Rafael Leao to not really worry about his defensive duties. Why? Because Jackie is so dynamic and is such a threat on the break. They may just say, just floating there. Once that ball does break, can we have you take it, carry it 40, 50 yards, like he did for an amazing assist for Oliver Giroud in the game against Napoli. So Jack, that's another option that I can see AC Milan doing, kind of sitting back, creating the two banks of four and saying, Leao, when it's time, think about it, do your thing.
I do understand where you're coming from there. For me, though, I think if they were to go the slightly more defensive route, or are you just saying if they were to play a back four, that's how they would set up in the defensive phase of play?
Yes, yes, yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes, yes.
I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you. Because I was going to say, there is, in my opinion, a slight edge to Milan just because they can play the four and the five, and they'll do whatever they need to do to have success against this team. I will say, though, of the previous matches and the previous exchanges, Inter have had the better of them.
That's to me, that's the biggest thing. I think in the last 8 or like 10 matches, I think AC Milan have only won two, Jack. In Inter Milan
Right.
have like really dominated lately. And overall, Jack, this season, Inter Milan have been a bit of a cup team, Jack. I think that they got it to the semi-finals of the Super Cup. If
Yep.
not like of the Coppa Italia, what they
Italia. Yep.
think about what they've been able to do this season, Jack. Secondly, in terms of you of who this is more important to, would you say it's
Oh,
would you say it's more Inter Milan? Because Jack, the fact of you, I'm hearing about how much debt that they're in. How are they able to pay certain players? Like if they don't get Champions League football, will they, Jack? Like will they be in big trouble next season? So it's almost like the way the league is looking right now. It's like the only way that they may get Champions League football is true, Jack, winning the Champions League, which is quite difficult. So probably putting their eggs in one basket, you know,
it,
to get to the
it,
final might be a thing.
it is that is a factor. But what I will say is, in Italy, the percentage of your revenue that comes from Champions League football is massive. I mean, that's the same way in pretty much everywhere apart from the Premier League, if we're being totally honest. That's why Champions League football is such a must. The issue at the moment in Italy, James, you've got 7 teams who think that they should probably be in Champions League football places. There are only 4 spots. We've kind of got a similar thing in England as well. There are probably 7 or 8 teams who think we should be challenging for top four. Really, well, guys, there are only 4 spots, so I don't know who's getting them and who's missing out. Right? I take your point. I feel like it's more important to Milan.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Inter had their success, right? Inter did have some kind of recent success that they can kind of fall back on and look at. Milan don't really. It's been a minute since Milan were properly relevant in like a top tier kind of, Serie A title or a Champions League type setup.
My only thing is that okay, right now, wait, are you talking about AC Milan? AC Milan haven't. AC Milan are defending champions in Serie A, Jack.
Of course,
Um, when you look at their overall record, yes, granted, Inter Milan were in the Europa League semi-final and final. I think no, no, semi-final, but overall, like I look at the squads, Jack. One team is look, they got Henrik Mkhitaryan and like Jack Edin Dzeko, Lukaku's basically a Chelsea player. When you look at the team, Jack, a lot of players who are on the downhill compared to Rafael Leao, Diaz, all these Tamori, all these young guys who look like they're going to be there for 3, 4 years, Jack.
right. I think my thing is though, in oh my god, I might get in trouble for saying this. Inter have always been the kind of younger brother to Milan, though, right?
100%,
So,
100%.
and to me, Inter have had the better of Milan, generally speaking, especially in a head-to-head sense recently. And the main thing that, as much as obviously the Scudetto is super important, and I'm not doubting that at all, it's the lack of ability in European football that we've seen that you and I have even talked about recently. And James, I'm not talking about Jose Mourinho winning the Conference League as saying that that's good enough. Like, no. Italy needs representation at the top level of European football, right? And again, that team you'd think should, quote unquote, should be the red and black, right, of Milan. I don't know. I think I'm probably being a bit romantic about it.
But okay, Jack, I think it's time to predict right now. Where do you stand? Who do you think is going to go through? We've had a breakdown. We talked about where the game can be won, like where it can be lost for both teams. Who do you think is going through, Jack?
I'm gonna go against my better judgment, and I'm gonna pick Milan to go through. I Lukaku off the bench is scary. Um, somebody like Çalhanoğlu again is kind of scary. But I look at the likes of maybe even somebody like Ante Rebic coming on as well, and I just that left flank. There's something about this Milan team, and again, it's also the flexibility. I know I've mentioned this a couple of times because James, as much as this is the lineup that I think it is going to be, we could easily be looking at that back three, back five for Milan as well. And I think that familiarity plays into part. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's like you said, right? We've got some players for Inter who are kind of on the back nine of their career, kind of sailing off into the sunset. James, we got some studs for this Milan team who can really make a name for themselves going forward. And what better place to do it than a Champions League semi-final and then a final against either Real Madrid or a Pep Guardiola Manchester City?
Jack, I want AC Milan to go through, but
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that this is Inter Milan's year, Jack, in terms of view. Maybe not to win the whole thing, but in terms of view of their a cup side, they've had the upper hand against AC this season, seasons prior to them. And just to me, just the overall, probably a bit more knowledge in this team in a way, the fact that they've been a bit more competitive in like Europe. They've obviously won it and they won it in a time where you had to knock down a Juventus who were right on their you were right on their high horse. I just see them going through the quality of thing about it. Lautaro Martinez, Dzeko, who I think is one of the most underrated players, Jack. Barella, um, Barella, who I think
Stud.
is
Yeah.
going to get a big move. Don't know how Henrik Mkhitaryan is still playing football. I don't get it,
He's
but he is. And right now with Inter Milan, he is balling now. And Jack, you mentioned also that guy who will play a big part of it, who's not on the screen right now, Lukaku. I just see them going through. I just think that they have a little bit more cup knowledge. I'm gonna say Inter Milan goes through, but guys, we've had a breakdown of it. Yeah. AC Milan fans, Inter Milan fans, football fans, let us know. Let us know what you think. Let us know where the game's going to be won, where the game's going to be lost, and especially who do you guys think is going to go through. Like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Jack, do you want to say anything
Well, I
quickly?
just want to say, like, who needs the European recognition more as well? It's been a minute for Italian representation at the top here. Juve tried and failed for a long time. We know all the jokes about the likes of Buffon and that kind of thing. Who needs it more, Milan or Inter? Let us know.
Guys, comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And me and Jack will see you next time.